Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
Sorry.
All right, welcome everybody here and at home to the Tuesday, March 3rd informational meeting. We will call this meeting to order and get started with any city council open discussion. Councilors? Nobody. All right. Sounds good. We'll move right into our presentations. Our first one will be on the Neighborhood Connect by Director Eckhoff. You don't look like him.
No, I'm a little taller, but not quite as good looking, so I'm going to take over. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Jason Bieber with Planning and Development Services. With me today is Holly Carpenter with Innovation Technology, excuse me. We are here to give you an overview of the exciting new program called Neighborhood Connect. Just a little history on it. Our department has been working on this neighborhood website for roughly 7 years, so it's been a long process. The project really picked up steam over the last year when our existing land management software, Energov, purchased a program that really allowed Neighborhood Connect to become a reality. Neighborhood Connect will provide a whole new level of transparency to the residents of Sioux Falls. This program will utilize information already entered and stored within Energov, which in turn will require little additional staff time and maintenance of the website. This tool puts residents in the driver's seat to customize notification of plans, permits, and code cases. Neighborhood Connect really provides a whole new way for the city of Sioux Falls to engage with its residents. I'll now pass the baton to the brains of the operation, and Holly, I'll kind of do a brief run through of the program and really give you an idea of what this thing can do. So,
Welcome.
Thank you. So when a resident first lands on the Neighborhood Connect website, this is the screen they're going to see, the home screen. It's going to give a visual of the city of Sioux Falls, city limits, and then the boundaries of the city council members. And from here, on the left-hand side, you can filter what you're seeing. Go ahead and go here. On the map filters, you have the option of historic districts or city council. The next option that you can select is, again, different outlines. You can see parcel data outlines, again, the city council boundaries. And then you can start looking at date ranges. So you can look at past records or future records. So it gives you a lot of flexibility of the date range that you want to look at. So if you're just looking at the past month, or if you want to look at annual date ranges. So you're able to customize that per what you're looking for. And then as of right now, we've opened up plan data, permit data, and code case data. And so again, we want to make this where it can be really customizable and you can personalize it for what you need it for. And so again, if you're somebody who's looking just for commercial buildings, or if you're just interested in rezoning, you can just select those two items and that's what's going to populate on the map for you. On this screen, we've also given each different record type colors, so then that way, if you're kind of color driven when you're looking at the map, you'll know that plan data is going to be your green items, permit data is red, code cases are blue. So it's very visually pleasing. To just go through and explore the information that you can see, like I said, you can select what you're looking for, and as you select it, you'll see on the map that it actually starts to populate that data. And so again, we always recommend to maybe do some date customization, else it can be kind of data overload. But as of right now, this screen is showing you the past 6 months, so it's showing you everything that's been issued in the past 6 months for commercial data. On the right-hand side, you're going to start to see data trends. So this is kind of exciting if you're somebody who's looking at annual data. You'll be able to see the trend of where, say, rezonings have been for the past couple of years. You can see, if there's been a lot in 2019, not as many in 2020, you can start seeing the trends of that. And then if you want further information, you have the ability to actually click on the more details. And this is actually going to take you out to our customer self-service website that goes into the details of that record. So if you're looking for what's actually happening on that job site, you'll see the description, you'll be able to look at the context. So if there's contractors, developers that are attached there, you can get that further information. One of the great benefits of this website is not just going there to explore and discover things, but also signing up for an alert. So you don't have to always go out there looking for stuff. It's actually going to come to you in an alert manner. And so just like I showed you in the other filtering options, you're going to select the items that you're interested in. And once you have those selected, you have different ways that you can actually select what sort of alerts you want. You can do it per the historic district, the city council district, or you can do it per address. So in this example, I'm using an address. I use the city center's address. So after I type that in, it's going to then take me over and ask me what my date range is. On this sort of alert, I recommend to do a custom date range for any future items. And then it's going to give me a radius of that address. By default, it gives you a 1/4 mile around that address. But again, what's really nice about this is you can either expand or minimize this. So it's very, very customizable. So if I was more interested in a bigger scope of what I'm looking for, you can expand that out to a 1/2 mile, to a mile. It's all about what you want. Once I have that set, I'm going to click on the Create Alert. And from here, again, I can choose if I want this daily, weekly, monthly, and then you can name it per what the alert's for. So again, if you're somebody who knows that a lot of activity is happening and you want to have daily kind of notifications about that, but if you're just more of a resident that's curious about the neighborhood, you can set those to monthly. And again, another nice thing about this is if you set it to daily and you're overwhelmed by those alerts, you can go in and edit that and be like, oh, I need to bring that back to maybe only weekly. So it's able to be edited after you create the alert. Once I create the alert, you can actually see it here, and again, you can edit it, so if you need to change it, or you can delete it completely. So again, if you're overwhelmed, you can remove it. And you can have as many alerts set up as you want. So for me personally, if I was curious about, my neighborhood, I would set up an alert for that, but I'm also interested in what's happening downtown, so I'm going to set up an alert for that. Plus, I'm interested in what's happening in my city council district, so I can set up a third alert for that. There's not a cap on that. So just to give you an example of what the email looks like, this is just a snapshot of it. So this comes into your email. It lets you know what data it was sent to you, the type of data that has been updated. And what's really nice from this alert is that highlighted map data, when you click on it, it's actually a hyperlink back to Neighborhood Connect. So you don't have to get this alert and then go back out to the website to try to figure out. You can just click on the hyperlink and it will take you directly there and show you what you're looking for.
So just in conclusion of really why we wanted this website really was transparency. We want people to know what's going on in their neighborhood. We don't want them to know what's going on after something's been approved by planning commission or city council, or after a building permit has been issued or approved or has been finalized out. If you want to know what's going on in your neighborhood, we want you to know as soon as you can. Also, another reason, extended business hours. We know we're 8 to 5. If you want to come down and get a building permit information or get rezoning application information, you got to be 8 to 5. However, this will allow people to access information 24 hours a day, which I think is one of the main reasons why we wanted to do that. One of the reasons why it maybe took us a little longer, the 7 years or so that we've been working on it, is we really wanted to be able to have a program that has alerts, because who wants to be logging into something every single day and then zooming to your neighborhood and trying to find what you want? So we really wanted to have a program that, hey, notification alert, something's going on, let's log in there and let's check it out. Another thing with this program is it does have an easy user interface. Heck, I can do it, so it's easy. From a staff perspective, from a city's perspective, really, for us, it's hopefully going to reduce some inquiries. They don't have to call in and say, does this address have a building permit? What's going on with this rezoning in the neighborhood? Have they been approved for a conditional use? We really wanted that also, so to really reduce some staff time. And one of the other main great things about this program is it takes very little staff time. We're already entering all this information in EnerGov. We already have to do it, and then this program just takes that information and puts it on a map for us. So in our opinion, that's one of the major things with this. We're just utilizing a system we've already invested in just to put the data in a different area. And then myself and Holly would be happy to answer any questions you may have. She's more of the technical person, so if you have any of those, we'll scurry her back up here, I guess. So.
All right, thank you. Questions, councilors? Councilor Neitzer?
First of all, great job. And just out of curiosity, does Holly work under Lori Stoll or under another division?
Nope, she works under Information and Technology, IT, so I believe John Clemmy was her boss.
Yeah, because it definitely, some of it has kind of a GIS feel to it with the mapping and the plotting and all that.
Absolutely, and we worked with GIS, and really it's, like I said, GIS has worked with us so much on EnerGov, getting that all to populate, and this is already taking that information from there and pulling it into a map, so it makes it so easy for us, and it's easy to get that information out there.
A few real-world examples, will it do this or not? So like if somebody submits an application for a rezone, it hasn't been approved yet, will that show up at any time?
That application will show up as soon as we have entered it into EnerGov, which we usually do within a half a day of getting an application. So once we enter that into EnerGov and it's an application in EnerGov, it will populate instantaneously on the map. So
Really? So even before you've got like a draft planning commission agenda, you may be alerted that somebody's asking to do something in your neighborhood? If
somebody would submit an application for rezoning today, you would know about it today, even though it's not going till April.
Wow, okay. And other things like, for example, somebody pulls a grading permit or a building permit or something, and then they're wondering, well, why is dirt moving over there? Same thing?
The building permit information would, as soon as they fill out an application or online or whatever, that would show up. We haven't incorporated engineering stuff into it yet. It's something that we absolutely want to do. When we were getting into this, to get it kind of launched, there were so many plans and permits if we included everybody outside of our departments. We really wanted to kind of start with the top list of what we think people would want to see to begin with, and then really being able, as we go down the line, integrate as many different departments as we can. As you know, we have, fire utilizes EnerGov, engineering utilizes EnerGov, and that's really anybody that utilizes EnerGov, it's easy to add it into this map.
And finally, I use CSS a lot, especially if somebody asks me, a question about a property, because I can see, okay, there's been, 3 mowing complaints or whatever. So you're going to see the same information if you click there? Because like for me, I see basically a summary form. I don't see a full-on code case, and I'm sure you must internally be able to see more, but the user on the outside doesn't necessarily get the blow-by-blow.
We'll probably have Holly go through that one.
Okay, yeah.
So kind of the differences of what you're going to see is on the Neighborhood Connect website, it's really just going to give you the type of code case you're going to see and the address. But on Citizen Connect or on self-service, you're actually going to see more contacts. You'd be able to see, especially on a commercial building, who the contractor was, and then also the description of the permit, where on Neighborhood Connect, like I said, it's really basic details. So if you want to get more and more into the weeds, you start to go to CSS for that, for more of the individual record information. Neighborhood Connect is just more of a really quick overview of it.
But on Neighborhood Connect, if you just click the item, like click number 1, because I care about that, it'll take me to CSS and I would see that? Yeah,
so when you click on the item on Neighborhood Connect, you're going to have more details, and you're going to click there, and that'll take you directly to CSS.
Okay, great. Great job, thank you.
Councilor Erickson.
Talk to me a little bit how you plan to promote this Is it just a website or is it an app or both?
So it is just a website right now, but it's mobile friendly. So whether you take it to a tablet or a phone, it'll resize itself. So
Okay, and then how do you plan to promote this? Is this been taken to the home builders and neighborhood associations and Crime Watch and all those? I mean, I know it's not crime related, but I mean, those are groups that are engaged oftentimes.
I think that's a great idea to do that, to go to some of these neighborhood associations and maybe work with Diane in her office about getting it out there. We did do a little program on CityLink today, me and Holly, and then we're gonna do a Facebook thing with it. But really, it's gonna go live tomorrow at 6 or 8 o'clock a.m. Really, then from that point forward, just anybody that we think would like it to get out and to show them it and maybe have some training sessions here. But I think neighborhood associations, we can work with them on getting kind of a pamphlet, and she's worked with some ideas on how to, how-to guides and things to get it over to them, so that's a great idea.
And then my other question is this for just Suzie Citizen, or is this something that the ABC Electrical will use as well to check on their own building permits through that, or no?
I think it's for everyone. I think more of the contractor type. To us, this is more for the residents, because our contractors and that already kind of have CSS to utilize for status of their building permits. Now, they can do that through here, but it's a little bit quicker for them just to go into CSS. So we vision it more for our residents, people that don't have an account in CSS or don't do building permits regularly. So.
Then my other question, if I can, Mr. Chair, one more, is can you file a complaint on this as well? Because I see that there's a lot of code things on there. Is this a place that you can do that? I know there's other places online that you can type it in or just call Matt. Just kidding. But if there's a way to do it easily on this too, or is this, again, just informational?
This is, currently in its current form is just information, not saying that that's something we couldn't look at down the line, but right now that would be just for you to, once somebody, say, filed a complaint that somebody's grass is too long, and we and our property maintenance team entered that code case into Energov, it would show up on here.
Okay.
I have a link to where you can go out and put in a complaint.
Still, if you want to do that, okay. Well, I'm excited about this. I think it's a great mechanism for people to be able to look to see, I live by a vacant lot, and what's going in that lot, you can constantly be checking on it, and it's just one more way to access more information and really increase that transparency. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
And I think that's one of our main goals. We just want to reiterate that we're not going away with anything else we've done. We're still sending out letters for rezonings. We're still posting stuff in the paper. We're still posting signs, but hopefully this is another way to engage a whole new level of residents that hadn't really utilized the paper or that kind of stuff before. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilor Staley.
Well, Jason, I'm so glad that you just said what you did, because that was one of the comments I wrote down, is that signage cannot be underestimated. Sending the letters cannot be underestimated. So the first question I have is, how much did it cost to put this website together? What did we invest in this?
So it's an integration with our land management software, and so it's an annual cost for that integration, and I think it was about $15,000.
Okay.
Part of that was for the actual configuration too.
So that's going to be an ongoing cost of the
No,
$15,000?
there will be an annual cost just for the integration, but the $15,000 also considered the setup.
Okay, good. Now, you talked, Holly, a lot about alerts.
Yes.
And so I wasn't quite clear as to what the alerts would be. Are we talking like a police, if there was a standoff in the area, are they going to be connected to a police scanner?
No, it's more alerts on if a new permit is taken out and you sign up for a daily alert, you'll get an alert by the next day that that permit was taken out. And so you'll be let know that a new residential building permit was taken out.
Because when we talk about neighborhoods, and especially now that we've had this incident with the random shooting fatality, I think people are going to be very interested in having something that would be police-oriented come through.
Understood.
So, and is there ability to put that inject that into this?
It has the ability if they choose to, yes.
So that, I would love to see that. So the alerts are not really safety alerts. They're more of, I'm hearing you talking about the rezone alert.
Yeah, more informational on land management records, permits,
So-
plans, and code cases.
So this would be more applicable to someone that might be next to a vacant field?
Yeah, I would
Jason
say.
says yes. Okay, so
Yep.
yeah, we are hearing about that. Code enforcement, Counselor Erickson just talked about that. So you will have, I know that we've been contacted by people who are living by a abandoned home, and there's rats living in there and vagrancy happening. Will there be an update on there as far as what's happening, the status of that? Because some people feel like they've just been kind of abandoned, forgotten about.
So it will only alert after the initial creation of that record. If they want to continue to follow up on that record, they would actually have to go back to the website and look to see if there's any change in status.
So but it will have a documentation of when the initial complaint was lodged, that
Yep, when
people.
it was opened.
Okay. And once again, I think that it's wonderful that we're talking about technology. I will tell you that a lot of people in my world and in my neighborhood probably would not go this direction. They're still into that old-fashioned, telephone.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that it's good to try to touch people in many different ways. So thank you.
And that was I think one of the big things that we talked about is we're not going to remove any means that they're able to communicate with us today. We're just adding to it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions? Counselor Neitzer?
I could just think of a plethora of, well, let me ask this question. Can you set up an alert? I know you said like in a diameter or a perimeter, but can I just say I want to just fixate on this parcel? I have a vacant parcel across the street from me. It's been like that for 3 years, and I want to know when something happens. Can I just say that parcel?
Select the parcel itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll be able to pretty much eliminate the radius that you're setting up to a 0, and it'll just pinpoint that parcel itself.
Okay. And then I'd have an early, well, like example, like 6 in Bonson is if I lived over there. That lot's been vacant for years, and suddenly I'll get a tip off even earlier than before the rezone signs go up. That something's going. Board of Adjustment, if somebody applies for a variance, does that show up?
Currently, we don't have Board of Adjustment cases in EnerGov. Obviously, something we're working on to get that actually into our EnerGov system, the workflow. Another one we want to work on because we think people would want to know is Historical Board of Preservation. We want to get that one on there. So this is just kind of the start. I mean, me and Holly and the rest of our department think, sky's the limit. The more things that we can get on this, we feel like the better we can. We wanted to start somewhere with stuff that we can kind of control and know that we're putting the information in. And then once we kind of get it going and getting people understanding it, we'd love to continue to add things and things that we think people want to know about. Because that's the beauty of it. We can add a bunch of things. You don't need to, you may not want to know about all of them, but you can customize it. So maybe you want to know about Board of Historic Preservation, but Councilmember Kiley does not. So he doesn't have to know about it if he doesn't want to.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else? How long has it been under development, the program? Or the system?
Well, I've had a neighborhood website of some sort on my kind of work program for 7 years, and it's been really tough. What made it so tough is, first, before we had EnerGov and before this new program, who's going to maintain the website? Who's going to take all this extra time to put the information on the website? That's where we struggle. And we didn't have a notification. We really wanted to have a website that had a notification because otherwise you're going to spend all this time and nobody's going to go there if they're not notified. So we really wanted that. And as I indicated, over the last year or so, EnerGov has purchased a program called Socrata, which really made this thing a possibility. So.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think as has been commented on, it's a great tool to educate and engage citizens, so it'll be fun to see how it all rolls out. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got a Super Tuesday election update with Mr. Greco.
Okay, good afternoon. Tom Greco, City Clerk, providing a quick election overview, kind of where we're at, where we're going over the course of the next couple months. So one key thing to point out right off the bat is that we will not have a runoff election. The way our ordinance runoff provision is written, it's in races involving 3 or more candidates. We don't have any races that involve 3 or more candidates. The only other things that could happen that would have to be addressed are a tie vote or a recount. And there are processes for that. But I do have on this first slide, obviously, some very key dates. The first one is the election itself, April 14th, 2020. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We are combining with the Sioux Falls School District election. They have one race that will be on the ballot. And then voter registration deadline, March 30th by 5 p.m. And I'll talk to you about how folks could go and check that on their own. This is what I'll talk about, the ballot, what it's going to look like, not specifically, but the items that'll be on it, important dates, precincts, and polling places. So in terms of the ballot, on the left side is generally what we'll see, the types of races and the questions that will be on there. First, school board member, and these are all in order. We did a ballot order drawing this morning for the city candidates. The district did one for the school board candidates. And those names up there are the order that they'll be presented on the actual ballot. So we'll have those 3 races, and then we have 2 charter amendments, Charter Amendment A and Charter Amendment B. And then on the right side, I listed Southwest District City Council member and Northeast District City Council member. Those 2 individuals met the qualifications for nomination. They're unopposed, so they will not be listed on the ballot. Okay, important dates. Today, I mentioned that we had our drawing for candidate order. That's required by law. Monday, March 30th by 5 p.m., deadline for voter registration. Now, I just want to pause there and direct your attention to the bottom left of the screen. It's just a screenshot of our webpage. If you go to www.siouxfalls.org/election, the item that will pop up on top if you're on your phone is that one box, check voter registration and precinct. And I encourage folks to click on that, double check your registration, double check what your precinct is, and it will also show what your polling location is. This is pulled directly from the master registration file, so it is the most current. If you find that your information is not correct, you can send it a voter registration form update to your county auditor. But I do encourage people to look at that, and I encourage you to tell folks to look at it. The 30th will also begin absentee voting. This is absentee voting by mail and absentee voting in person. Of course, Monday, April 13th, that's the deadline for in-person absentee voting. And then on the 14th, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then on May 19th, we will start terms, have the installation, and elect the chair, vice chair, and operations committee members. So a lot of stuff going on over the course of the next couple months. But really, the near-term thing for folks to think about is making sure that your voter registration is up to date, you know where your polling location is, and you know the availability of absentee voting in person. Now, I do want to point out in the past, as we have in the past, we have a contract with Minnehaha County Auditor. They conduct our absentee voting. So all folks who live in the city of Sioux Falls in this jurisdiction, and also within the Sioux Falls School District, if they would like to absentee vote in person, it will be at the Minnehaha County Auditor's Office in the County Administration Building. That goes for whether you're a Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County resident or a Sioux Falls, Lincoln County resident. We do our absentee voting through the Minnehaha County Auditor. Okay, precincts and polling places. Again, I have up there on the top right that graphic just to remind you, check the webpage, go to the voter information portal to check your voter registration and your precinct to make sure that you know your location on election day. Just a reminder, we have 67 precincts at 54 locations. I point that out because there are several, obviously, polling places out there on election day. It's very possible for somebody to drive by one polling place that's not theirs to get to their own. So again, knowing's half the battle. Make sure you know where your polling place is and what your precinct is. As a reminder too, we have a new precinct, precinct 2-16 down in the southeast. Those voters have all been notified. And then changes from 2018, those are location changes. We will be sending postcards out to these folks within the first week of April to give them a reminder that their polling location from the last election, not just the city election, but the general election, has changed. So they'll be notified that they've had a change and that and what their new location is. Now, our postcards are only as good as people's voting registration address. So typically, we end up getting a lot of return mail from those mailings. So I do encourage people to go out, check their voter registration, and make sure it's up to date. And that's all I have for now. Not a tremendous amount of information, but again, the key points: voter registration deadline, March 30th. Absentee voting starts March 30th, and then Election Day on April 13th. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
All right, thanks, Tom. Counselor Neitzer.
If somebody registers by mail, does it have to be postmarked or arrive by the 30th?
It has to be postmarked.
Any other questions?
Well, let me double check on that. I don't want to answer too rashly.
Counselor Staley.
Okay, a few questions, Tom. Will people be voting absentee by mail?
Yes. Yep.
So when do those start getting sent out?
Those will get put together the week prior to the 30th, and they'll be dropped in the mail on the 30th.
And then they have to be in your possession by the 13th?
They have to be back to the office generally, but there's a certain time on that Tuesday. So we end up getting, it happened this past year, happened 2016. Mail will come in throughout the day on Tuesday.
So Bob Litz will be involved. I recall an election several years ago where we had a situation where the school district was involved and people were driving around trying to deliver ballots in their cars, that people ran out of ballots. Now, we're going to have Nicert's district there and then just be general for the rest of us. Who's going to be, if they do run out, who will be in charge of
I will.
supply? Is Bev Chase helping within the school?
No, I'm the election official, so we contract with the school district, and it's our responsibility to run this election. And so if there is, say, a ballot shortage, which to me is a good thing because it means there are a lot of people voting, we have runners, we have people here in the building on election day. We communicate that to precinct superintendents if they're running short. We do have extra ballots that we can move to them.
Because it's going to be a little complicated, isn't it? Because there could be some ballots that only have the school board member's name, right? Some might just have the at-large person. And then in the Northwest District, will it be all three names? Or could there be some places where
we have 5 different ballot styles, so some ballots will have at-large only, so just the at-large race and the charter amendments. At-large school, which will have the at-large charter amendments and school district race. And then we'll have a Northwest, school, so Northwest Sioux Falls voters and school district voters, and then a school-only voter. So they're based, the allocation of ballots is based on the number of voters per precinct. And by state law, I'm required to order at least 10% more than the votes cast in the last comparable election, which was 2016.
And then on election night, Bob Litz's office is going to be counting them as well?
They tabulate, yes.
Okay, super, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, Tom.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Bix is coming up. We've got budget prioritization. If anybody's missing a tie, we had one turned in at the Lost and Found. Welcome.
Thank you. David Bixler, budget analyst for the City Council. So over the last month or so, the City Council has been working to determine budget priorities for 2021 and to inform the administration so they can maybe incorporate that into the 2021 budget. So what you see here is the ratings from all the councilors they've all provided information, and on the left, you'll see that I have it by area and then the rating of how many ratings were in there, such as the housing had 5, public safety had 5, the triage center had 5. And then if you go to the right, that gives you more of an idea of the specific initiatives that the councilors selected. This is just strictly the initiatives themselves and how they came in for ratings. So you can see that public safety, the initiative specifically for public safety for the triage center, affordable housing and storm drainage all received 3. And then the next set received 2, and then the ones. And there were 42 in total items that were listed, and only 24 actually had any rating to them. And I would suggest that this would be what we would pass on to the administration as far as council's concerns.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bixler. Any questions? Councilor Staley?
Just an observation. So the $1 million for affordable housing got 1 vote?
Correct?
Okay, so but that's listed that's in the top one was, you put that in housing as one of the top then?
Correct.
Okay, so I think, and actually at the end of the day, the man who's in charge of this is sitting in the back, Mr. Sean. Yeah. So just as you see the ranking thing that you say, I really like this other side where it's talking about exactly, how many votes each thing got. So I was, and I'll just, I had put my vote in for the South Side swimming pool, just to be listed as a priority. And I would hope that my colleagues who live on this, who represent the south area of town would also be supportive of that. Apparently, one of them, somebody else was. Street repair, I gave that I brought that forward when we had our other meeting. Was that a week ago? Was that on Wednesday?
That was.
Yes, yeah, and we, those of you who weren't here, 3 of you were gone, but we did have some people come in. We had a very spirited conversation with the warden, and in fact, it'd be nice to have him come back again, because we were kind of getting into other areas of service that the penitentiary can provide. But then we also were talking about, another thing I brought forward just to touch on that was the Wi-Fi at the bus terminal. Kathy Brechtelsbauer came in and gave a little talk about how that would be a benefit for people who are using the bus. Municipal urban forestry management program, that would be having the city take over taking care of the trees on the boulevard. And Scoop It program, I see there's one there, so that must have been me. Reinstating that for our citizens using the inmate help, workforce help, and having the city pay for a supervisor to do that. I was looking for one more there. Oh, operational funding for the food giveaway. And again, it looks like I was the only one who voted for that, but and if those of you that might have that missed it, we had Pastor Jeff Hayes come in, and you might have heard of the food giveaway on Fridays, but they are actually constantly being utilized by the 211 helpline because they provide a lot of food for people who are in need weekly. So I was hoping we could give them a little assistance. So Sean, I'm just putting out another shout out for those things. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Bixler, for doing this.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have questions? Yeah, thanks for all your work. I know this is a big project for you, so. Okay, that's it for presentations. Any public comment on any of today's topics? All right, if not, Mr. Neitzer.
Give me just a moment here. Do you have the agenda? I'm sorry, I didn't.
I'll make a
Thank you.
motion to go into executive session discussing information listed in subdivisions 1-27-1.5 parent 8 and 1-27-1.5 parent 17.
And I will second, Nitzert.
Roll call, please.
Council members Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
Delberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Star. Staley.
Yes.
All right, we'll move into executive session. Thank you.